I've been reliably informed that were I to the assistance of a magician, a high priestess, the devil and a hanged man, I could make major life decisions with absolute confidence, as if it's not hard enough already.
For decades, Paul Fenton-Smith has been using the ancient symbols and archetypes of the tarot to peer into the future. He's laying his cards on the table for us this morning and will explain how they can help us navigate through life's challenges. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
What are the origins of tarot?
Oh, well, it's traceable back to the 14th century in Italy. It was a game called tarocchi. It's still actually played in Italy now.
It's Italian?
Yeah, well, and then the French adaptation of the word was tarot. You know, and some people still call it tarot with a T on the end. And it's interesting that come down 600-700 years later, the symbols still are applicable today, you know. So we have new careers and new ways of living our lives, but the same fundamental things exist. You know, we want to fall in love, we want to have a good, worthwhile career, we want to raise a family. All those fundamental things of life haven't changed.
Is it important if you are seeking advice from the tarots? How do you go about it? Must you pose a question that can be answered yes or no?
The clearer the question, the clearer the answers in practical terms. And also, you need to bear in mind free will is an important part of that as well. So I give you a most likely future from where you stand today, but you've got free will to change all of that. You know, you can make decisions and go off in another direction, or you can do nothing. But I think the worst thing you could do is just sit and hope that everything's going to happen, you know?
So I was going to ask you exactly that question. Yeah. Does it override free will?
No,
But it depends also on free will.
Exactly, yeah. So a good tarot reader is only telling you what is most likely to happen from where you stand today. And if you went away and made some more decisions, then you might get a slightly different reading tomorrow. But I've seen cases, even 3 weeks ago, I was running an advanced tarot course, and the students practice every Tuesday, Wednesday night at home. So 6 students got together, all of them brought some friends for a reading session on a Tuesday night for a couple of hours. One lady on the drive home said to her friend, the reader, I had a reading from 5 different readers tonight, and I asked them all the same question, and they all gave me the identical answer. And they were in different rooms, using different tarot packs, having no idea that the others had already given her a reading.
Well, then, how much, further to that, how much then does intuition play?
Well, you can add in intuition. The man who taught me the tarot was actually a mathematician, so he never used his intuition. But if you do, then you can add extra things, and it gives you that extra dimension. The difficulty is, and I studied in London with this in 1988, a good clairvoyant using only intuition, on a great day, they're fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But on a bad day, they talk a load of rubbish. And I remember a lady saying to me, she actually said to me, darling, I've talked a load of rubbish today, I'm off to bed. She went home at 3:30. I had to take over the rest of her clients. But on a good day, she could take the keys of your house and tell you the names of the people in the photos down behind the piano.
See, that's what I don't get. The cards, yeah, I mean, how can the cards say the names of the people?
No, they can't. The cards don't do that. So the cards will give you yes and no answers to specific questions, and then they can sometimes trigger your intuition to link in, but you don't really need the cards. I can remember in the 80s, a couple of margaritas too many, and I was reading a box of matches. Some guy dropped a box of matches on the table, and I said, right, 2 children, there's a boy and there's a girl. And he came back to me later, he said, no, there were 2 children, but it was a girl first and then a boy. I thought, look, I'd had a couple of margaritas.
You're a bit cross-eyed.
But you were just saying, you were talking about this lady, this tarot reader that had a bad day. She admitted to a bad day, but there must be people that go in there and take that advice.
Exactly.
And she's giving bad advice.
But you can't help that because they're sensitive people, and so you've really got to... I mean, I do a pure clairvoyance reading where I have to meditate before I do the reading. It can only be the first reading of the day or the first reading after lunch. I'm very specific about it. No alcohol for 24 hours beforehand, not for me, not for the client, so that I can give the clearest reading possible, you know? And if I'm having a bad day, I cancel that reading. I can't do it. And so the first time I introduced it in January last year, I cancelled the first couple. I was too wound up. I couldn't sleep the night before. It was really stressful. And I thought, 28 years in the business and you're this stressed, but it uses no cards, nothing. I just sit and I talk. And I say, at this age you did this, at this age you did that. I see 2 children, I see this, I see... And you just go through the person's life.
So why then does someone who is a clairvoyant like you, why then would you use the tarot?
Because if you're having a bad day and you know the meanings of the cards, you can still give a good reading, you know? And so the client's making decisions, they're paying their money, you want to give them the best you can give them, you know? And so when I saw this lady do this and go home to bed at 3:30 in the afternoon, I thought, you've got to know your stuff, you've got to know your stuff, so on a bad day you still give it, you know? So, because, you know...
So if we asked a yes or no question...
Sure. Yeah, you can ask yes or no questions. So
right.
the way it works
Should I ask a dangerous one?
Well, it's up to you. You've got loaded questions here.
All right, let's get ourselves in trouble.
The way it works is I get you to cut them and turn them over on themselves a few times like so, and then give them a brief shuffle if you would.
OK, so you cut.
And they're very shiny because they're new, so they're a bit slippery.
What particular symbols are people frightened of with the tarot?
So the classic ones are the Death card, the Tower, the 3 of Swords, those sort of cards, the Judgment card, because people think it's the Last Judgment, and they think
And death doesn't sound so great,
Death's
does it?
pretty. But when you left a job, there's a death card. If you leave a relationship, there's a death card. When you leave university, there's a death card.
It signifies an ending.
An ending of a chapter, yeah. And it's a card for the sign of Scorpio. So I remember being at a market years ago in the middle of the 80s, and a guy comes up with his girlfriend. She says, go on, ask. And I said, I was explaining how it worked. And he selected a card just as a demonstration, picks out the death card, it's facing him. And I said, look, don't worry about it. It'd probably mean more to you if you're a Scorpio. And his eyes get really large. Oh, great. So what's the chance of a Scorpio? And I explained to him, and he left thinking, oh my God, he's got to be tough in front of the girlfriend, but he's panicked,
But you actually need a combination of those.
Oh, yeah.
Foreboding
there are 8
symbols.
cards actually in the pack that can symbolise death. You need 4 of them on the table at any one time for a physical death. And sometimes people ask about Uncle Bob. He's 86, he's in hospital, he's on an oxygen machine. They're asking how's his health. They already know, he hasn't got long to go. Yeah. So what I want you to do is think about your question. Now, I'll need to know what the question is, and then I want you to cut them and turn them over sideways. If
Okay, like this, but I'm left-handed.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Then you use,
All right, there you go.
Okay, so what's the question?
The question is, will I be in this job next year?
Well, this is a card saying that opportunities are opening up for you for other things if you want. This is a card for opening up wider opportunities for you than you've had before.
It's the High Priestess card.
Yes.
And it's reversed. So reversed it says, upright says you're planting seeds in your mind for something new. Reverse says you've been hiding away a little bit and it's time to expand, time to come out. So it says if you want to, you can, but there's opportunity for you to go further forward.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's controversial.
Okay.
You game to ask a question, Big Dave?
Sure, okay.
Yep. Okay, so
Look, there are different styles, though, of cards, aren't there?
The basic 78 cards are there, and I've added in 1 blank card. And the blank card means that life has plans for you which are greater than you have for yourself. So sometimes you ask a question and the whole thing's redundant because when you get there, there's something else there for you, So what's your question going to be?
I need to ask you.
Yeah, I
tell you
need
the
to know the question so that I can see that it's really clear.
Okay. Yes, no, isn't it? Will I be fabulously wealthy?
Okay, all right. So I want you to cut them and turn them over.
God, this could go bad.
Okay, this is saying your partner's the one to help you with this. So what's your partner like with money?
It's yet to be proven.
So I look at the second card. It suggests you and your partner have got different ideas here and you're trying to get on the same page with it.
Oh, yeah.
And once you get on the same page with it, yes, there's a good possibility. But it's to do with a partnership rather than by yourself.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, there you go. So play your cards right.
Yeah. Why do you think there's been a marked increase of interest?
A few different reasons. Well, when I first started, people used to give you a number on a little piece of paper under the table, a dinner party, and they'd come up the back stairs and find you. These days, everyone's got a website, everybody's, it's much more mainstream, and people treat it as a consultant. If I'm buying a business, I had a client recently buying a business, so he sees the lawyer for the contracts, he sees the real estate agent to see the building sound, that sort of thing. Then he sees me to ask, is the business in the right position? Will this business take off? Will it be successful? So he's looked at all the practical stuff, and he just wants one more opinion. He'll still go ahead and do it anyway, but just,
For so many people, I know girlfriends of mine, I know I've been to see clairvoyants over the years, it's almost like a trip to a psychologist in lots of ways.
In lots of ways, yeah. People come when they're needing hope often, and then you're explaining to them why this is why your life is the way that it is, And people think you need a tarot pack. A friend of mine, I gave her a copy of this book when it first came out, and she didn't have a pack. She used to throw the book in the air, think of the question, grab it, open it at any given page and start reading that page, I watched this book turn into tatters in 3 months.
Well, because I was going to ask you, I know I'd love to have tarot cards, but I've always been very, very cautious because I didn't want to do the wrong thing and upset the tarot, if that's possible. But is there a particular way you need to look after them? Don't laugh at me.
Some people wrap them in silk, but I don't, because every one of my clients handles them. If you wrap them in silk, you're holding on to the energy. If your clients handle them more than you do, then you're holding on to the client's energy. So I treat them as a tool. They're pieces of paper that last 18 months, and I retire them. And then once every few years, I throw them all into the fire. And that's the time I think the 7-day Adventures are going to knock at the front door, and they'll see me throwing the devil card into the fire.
That's great.
You mentioned earlier that you've been visited by someone that was particularly nervous, particularly keen, desperate to get some answers. Isn't there a problem in that? Isn't there the problem that people that are desperate will cling on to anything.
I agree, that's a really valid point. I'm always telling students, when someone rings you up in the eye of a storm, the husband's just left, the wife's really upset, she wants to know, can I look after the kids by myself? And she's in a bad place, she's in the eye of the storm. That's not a good time to have a reading. I always say to my students, try and put them off for 3 or 4 days, let them settle down, they'll talk it over with a friend and maybe see a counsellor, that sort of thing. But if you see them in the eye of the storm, they don't get much accuracy, and it doesn't help your career, and it doesn't help them. If you can put them off, and it sounds cruel, that's the time they most need you, and you're putting them off, you know? And sometimes you don't even know it until they get you on the phone. I had a man yesterday on the phone, and his son's going in for surgery, problems with his spine. He's only 15 and some serious things, and I just thought, whoa, you know? But I could see he was in the hands of a good surgeon. And I thought, you know, let those people do that thing, because I try and avoid anything to do with medical stuff because I'm not medically trained.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been really nervous about giving someone bad news, where you've held back?
Yeah, sometimes. But then sometimes people aren't always that realistic. A woman, 44 years of age, she'd had one 6-month relationship in the last 8 years, wanted to have a child, but only wanted to have a child in a marriage, long-term commitment. She asked, will I have a child in the next 2 years? And I said, look, I can't see it. And she said, you're stealing my dream. And I thought, well, think about the reality of this, you know. You're not in a relationship. You won't have one just to anybody. You want to be in a relationship. It's been a long time since you've been in a relationship, and your age, and chances are she'll have a partner who's 44, 45, 46. You know, I'm thinking of biologically the way things are. You know, I wasn't saying she was never going to have one. I just said it's only a 2-year window. So this is just a 2-year window. So
just a 2-year window. That's good to remember too.
Yeah.
What's the real joy card? What's the card that you love to turn over, that the client loves to turn over?
Well, clients love to see the lover's card in relationships. They also love to see the world. It means travel overseas, means great success. And the sun card's an excellent card for creativity. You guys can have it yourself because you're doing something that's creative. You're in front of the public, and it's fun. It's bringing joy to other people.
Priestess. Does that mean I'm a princess though?
Yeah, the Empress is a card for pregnancy, and the pages will tell you the types of children that are coming along. So sometimes you can say, I've got a soft, sensitive child. I've got one of these cheeky children that only needs 5 hours sleep, you know, and the parents looking like, yeah, of course they are, you know, and that sort of thing. So
your book here it's a beginner's guide.
Yeah.
So it's to help people read the cards for themselves. Isn't there a concern in that
Exactly.
they will misinterpret certain signs?
In advanced classes, I always say, who agrees with me that it's not wise to read for yourself because you can't be objective? And all the hands go up. Then I say, who's read for themselves in the last 30 days? And all the hands go up. Yeah. So everybody knows the rules and everybody does it. So I figured if they're going to do it anyway, give them the road rules. Give them
Absolutely. And look, it's been phenomenally successful so far, so good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.